All right.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you eat one of these?
I ate one.
What was it?
That one.
Do you recommend it?
Well, you said you don't like what's that?
Maple.
Maple.
That's maple.
I bet you'd be a blueberry guy.
Oh, I want to swear at you.
So you go the complete opposite. You're like, screw this, chocolate straight.
Yes.
Straight.
You look like a blueberry guy. I want to you.
Go straight chocolate, then, son of a bitch. And we're back.
Ew.
On our podcast.
On our podcast.
Episode
13, I think.
Lucky 13?
Hey, that's my favorite number.
How about that? Lucky 13. 13 weeks in a row of podcastalization.
I don't know why if I like hold it in until I feel like I always have to like blurt out something in the beginning just to get us going here. So here I go. So I sent Pretty Boy's shed off.
You never even brought it back to I didn't even get to say goodbye.
It's gone.
Well, that's harsh.
4 to 6 months.
I didn't even sign like paperwork or anything.
I know.
4 to 6 months.
It's gone.
What is this, prison sentence?
So I sent it
Jeez.
to Klaus Antler Supply or Klaus Taxidermy, whatever.
Antlers by Klaus.
We'll get it right. We'll give him the right credit where it's due. I was so frustrated when I sent out just the incompetency of people. It's probably my fault for not.
Where'd you go? UPS?
I went to USPS.
Fail.
The post office in my town here.
Can't even vote by mail.
I know. So what I did was I just took the antler. I was like, I'll get packaging and stuff there. Apparently not.
They're like, can this go in an envelope?
Yeah. So I took it down there and I said, hey man, how's it going? It's just this guy, like middle-aged guy. And I was like, hey, can you help me get this kind of packaged up? And I needed to send it to this address here in Wisconsin, I think is where they're at. And he's like, he just gave me this weird look. I was like, you guys got boxes here? And he's like, yeah, I don't know if I have a box that's going to fit that. I was like.
Because he's got like flat rate box, probably.
I don't know what he's got.
He like just pulls out a thing of stamps. He's like, possibly you.
So he pulls out this box. He's like, it's the biggest one I got. It's like this big. He's like putting the antler in here a couple different ways. He's like,
no,
it's not going to work.
Good try.
We're like, yeah, it's not going to work. I was like, he's like, yeah, I don't have a box. So I was like, okay. He's like, you can go down to the state store, which is down the street there. And he's like, typically they put boxes in the back.
Like the liquor store.
The liquor store. I was
Not a bad idea.
I was like, okay. I was like, I'll run down there. So I did that. I took the antler with me and I went down. He said, just look behind the state store. I was like, all right. There's nothing there.
Homeless people probably.
I did peek in the dumpster. There's nothing in there.
That's scary.
It must have been trash day. I went around to the front and I actually went in and I asked them. I said, hey, guy at the post office said I should ask you like if you have a box. And they're like, you're not the first person that has asked today, actually.
Wow.
And yes,
how about that?
And yes, here we have a box. They gave me a Jim Beam, And so I took it back to the post office and it fit. It was the antler fit in there. And so I approached this guy again with these two things. And now I have an antler and a box. I said, hey, can you just, it's kind of fragile. I said, can you just wrap it?
Pull stamps out again.
He goes, I don't have anything to wrap it in. I was like, bubble wrap? I don't know. Bubble wrap? And he's like, oh, well, yeah. He's like, there's some over there. They have like the station where you can do it yourself. It's like $5 for like little bubble wrap that I can tell is not going to cover. So before I opened this thing, I was like, you know what, man? Just have like newspaper or something. He did find some newspaper for me. So he had a big stack of newspaper. So I crumpled it all up.
This is the hardest this guy's had to work in a long time at this point.
And he's clearly not
happy
about it.
Yeah.
Which is making me not happy about it because it's your job, in my opinion.
Making me nervous. Like the fact that you're entrusting this stranger with such a precious tool.
Gets worse.
Oh, Jesus.
I know. So I have this box of Jim Beam now stuffed with newspaper with the antler settled inside of it. And he's like, I give it to him at that point. He weighs it. It's like $15 to send it off. And he's like, I can't actually mail boxes that have alcohol like on the outside of it. I was like, what do you mean? Like, did you send me down to the liquor store?
Me to the liquor store.
He's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to cover the whole thing. So he gets out this stack of big postage
he doesn't
envelope.
have brown paper. Like,
Apparently not.
my God.
Gets out. I'm like, dude, this guy must live with his mom.
Again, he just pulls out the thing of stamps and he's like, huh?
So he covers the whole thing, literally like the sloppiest looking box I've ever seen. Just so, like, it's like he cut out this thing and then like taped it to one side of the box. He's cut out another one, taped it to the other side of the box. Then starts taping over the paper without taping the box. Like the box is still open. So like if the paper came off, I was like, no, dude. I said, it's pretty.
Clearly has never wrapped a Christmas present.
I'm like, dude, this is pretty important to me. I said, can we just? I'm sorry. Like, can you make sure the box is taped? And finally, we got it right. The last thing that made me uncomfortable was he put, my address, paper, and the little note that I left for those guys to say my name, my contact information, and the work that I was having done on it, on this little clear plastic baggie on the outside, of which the flap is just flapping in the wind. I'm like, dude, and I literally just like went like this and pulled the thing out. I said, hey, can we just get some tape on that? I did stay until like I made sure the whole thing was properly wrapped and stuff, but like the whole thing took me 45 minutes to get this thing sent off. And
the likely scenario that I feel like is, number one, we should probably check behind the liquor store in that dumpster because that box might be in there because he's just like, yeah, here, I'll send it off.
I do have a tracking number.
Has it departed? This is a problem.
No, it's fine. It'll get there.
We successfully delivered these via UPS, yet you felt the need to have confidence in our United States Postal Service to go and do this. Makes no sense.
It'll get there. Just
if not, like, go find it. Talk about a needle in the fucking haystack.
Well, I know who I'm holding accountable if it doesn't get there. And it ain't me.
Yeah, that guy's long gone at this point. He's on the run.
Yeah. I was pretty let down with our postal service at that point.
And you weren't before?
To be honest.
Listen, dude, there's mail that's still arriving from postmark November to people at this point.
I almost snapped on them. I almost was like, well.
Well, I mean, but postal service workers, we don't poke that bear.
No?
No.
The only reason I didn't was because it's my local post office. Like, I have to go there again. If it was some random, I would have been like, what good are you?
I feel like the next time you're going to walk in, he's just going to pull the shade down. Be like, yeah, no, we're closed.
So, anyways, yeah.
No cerveza.
I got that. Is that Spanish for service? Cerveza.
Sounds right.
I sent that off, and yeah, hopefully we get it back at some point.
4 to 6 months. It's a long time.
Well, I did the math. That'll be July.
Yeah, sounds right. Okay.
July sometime. So we'll get that back, and it'll look nice hopefully when it's done. And those guys do just amazing work. So.
Yeah, they're great. It's the right decision. Put it on a Big 8. Well, you have a Big 8 thing for it, right?
Yeah, it's actually
or a rack hub.
It's rack hub.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do want to get whenever we get that back. We'll have TJ on at some point and give him an opportunity to talk about those antler mount. I think they're super cool. The way that I've got this antler mounted, or that I had it before we left here, is I've got a print that I just got from Vistaprint. It was a picture that Pat took of the river bottom that this buck lives in. And I've got the antler, the single antler mounted right next to it. And I just think it's kind of like a shrine.
You just pull yourself into that every once in a while.
All I have to do is spin in my office chair, and
there it is.
There it is.
He's still down there.
Sometimes I actually angle our Skype meetings so that I can see it in the background, so that it looks, it's the classic over the shoulder where I'm like, yeah, no, I'm definitely listening. But really what I'm looking at is my background and the antler and stuff.
There's a chance that he was that big buck that we got on that stealth cam up by the, I mean, that was a big deer though.
I think it's that. I think it's Spider-Man.
I think that's Spider-Man. I mean, that was substantial bases coming out.
I know the viewers can't see it, but we did get another picture of a buck at
the Ants
in Kentucky.
Oh, really?
Looks like probably a 3-year-old.
Yeah, I like that.
Pretty decent.
Yep. I'm be sitting in that blind in a couple of days trying to shoot a bird in the face.
Are you going to? Are you gonna
Well, I'm gonna run and gun. I mean, if they're not nearby, I won't. But unless the kids are with me, because I can't hike them up the mountain.
Are they hunting or are you hunting?
They have first dibs.
Okay.
But if they default, yes, I will hunt. I'm sure Harlan will go.
Cool.
What's the plan?
Thinking about it.
Yeah.
We'll see. Part of our discussion this morning, I don't know if
time
is going to allow me to, but I'd like to get out to. I'd want to hunt bobs.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love for us to be able to go hunt bobs together, even if it was
I think
with
we
your
got time
kids.
for that. Even if it's not opening weekend, even if it's during the week, we just go.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's good choice.
Well, I think topic for today is kind of guided by the fact that we're going to have Jeff Sturgis on the podcast next
Whitetail
week.
Habitat Solutions, Jeff Sturgis, next week.
So figured we would kind of refresh ourselves on what little we do know about food plots and just maybe talk about that for a bit. And so we can get the real, education next week from Jeff. And
well, I mean, coming out of a big one, if anybody hasn't listened to it yet, go back to last week's and listen to kind of the episode with Bill Winke. A lot of information there, just from a hunting standpoint, from a hunting business standpoint. Bill's just a wealth of knowledge. Again, we appreciate him spending a large chunk of his morning with us on that. But man, what a cool thing to like really wrap our hands around and be able to hear it kind of straight from the horse's mouth of like where he's been, and what he's doing and where he's going. And I think that's a cool thing.
We should send him some gear.
Yeah, I think that would be really good.
Get in the habit of just hooking some people up with our stuff.
Yeah, and then having Jeff coming in next week will be really good because, Bill's one of these guys that we said is really like that godfather of like digital hunting shows, right? Whereas, I would say there's a lot of them, but there's probably 5 really good ones at this point or successful ones, and Jeff is one of those 5, who, especially in the last 12 to 24 months.
Ian says, don't forget about Weston.
Oh, yeah.
I know, Ian. We're just getting started. We're not in a rush.
Yeah. But in the next, in the last 12 to 24 months, Jeff's channel, again, on a YouTube standpoint, which we hear Bill's mindset around YouTube and not necessarily that it's not favorable, but wasn't part of his business strategy. Jeff's business strategy is very much YouTube oriented with consulting and things like that. And really what I'm excited to get in with Jeff next week is we can talk about it here just because we all deal with different properties is that Jeff sees probably more properties than anyone else I know on an annual basis. Like literally will binge, 20 to 30 consulting visits in a month in a state. So he's looking at 15 to 30 different properties, and when you have that much case study kind of history, I think it makes you better in your advice. It makes you better in your own hunting and your own management. And so that's a really cool aspect, complete opposite of a Bill who literally did everything on his property, one property. So it'll be cool to kind of contrast those two and, see how it even applies to how we hunt and how we manage our properties.
Yeah. It's just interesting how different people cling to different aspects of hunting in general, but in this case, deer hunting. Like, even from Bill to Jeff, I think Bill is passionate about the land management aspect.
For sure.
And he certainly did a lot of projects on his property, but compared to somebody like a Jeff who lives and breathes the property management aspect of it, I'll bet you he'll tell us next week that he enjoys that portion of it far more than the hunting itself.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's funny because I see even from a standpoint of timber stand improvement, Bill was every piece of that property that he hunted had been in TSI at some point, which is very much like what you did in your place in Ohio. And I know that's a critical piece of what Jeff does, but if you talk to Jeff about just overall strategy, food plots, warm season grasses, crop rotations, he's looking at it from a bigger picture. So you're probably right. I think his fruits of all of that labor are the hunt, whereas Bill really is mainly focused on the hunt, and then he needs to do this other stuff just to make sure that succeeds.
Yeah.
So it'd be good, a couple guys to get on the podcast right out of the gate and help us kind of, hold on to some things that we're even doing on different properties that we either have leases on or own.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a lot we can learn from a food plot standpoint. Because we've had some good success. We combined between, and we'll get Weston on here in just a minute, but between the three of us, we've all been planting food plots for. You more than us, but
yeah, it's because I'm
20, 30 combined years of, experience, food plot experience. We've been planting food plots anyways from, we've done soybeans, all the way from your
Everything.
standard like clover, brassicas into beans into more of the cereal grains and stuff like that, which I think Weston knows.
Well, and that's even so. This discussion with the three of us, and then even leading into next week with Jeff, because it'll be the three of us with Jeff. Is I'm kind of interesting to hear everybody's take on different things, because I know Jeff is a big annual guy. Yeah. Like not that he won't plant perennials, though I don't ever hear him really promote it too much. He's a big volume, biomass annual guy, whether that's summer or fall, which is a lot different than and it just depends on when you're hunting. But like for here on the mountain, like I don't have any crops around. There are no crops. So like, I'd love to plant soybeans, and I'll probably try it this year. But like I need to have clover and chicory and alfalfa because there isn't anything else.
One thing that I think is cool about Jeff's job, and just in respect to his like how he likes to advise people, it is subjective. Like sure. Like there are parts of it that's like, hey, this works, period. Like this is how you get a food plot to grow.
Yep.
But when you put it through the lens of, well, this is how I like to hunt, or this is my situation is different because of this. I'm sure Jeff does his best to look through the lenses of the landowner himself, but it's subjective at the end of the day.
Yeah, there is no right or wrong necessarily. Yeah. It all is catered based on your goals and when you hunt and what you're hunting or what your goals are from a hunting standpoint. The other cool thing from a Jeff standpoint, because he is so rooted in this, obviously we use it and he uses it. We're all deer grow guys at the end of the day too. And so understanding, because I will say, like when I started planting food plots, like I just, dropped a disc or a drag and went to town, and I didn't fertilize, I didn't lime, I didn't do any of that stuff. And most of my food plots look like shit, at the end of the day. And there's other factors involved in that, but yeah, it'll be cool because it's one of those things, to your point, is I think almost everything about food plots is subjective. There's very little things that are happening around food plots besides like if you have no rain, you have no food plot. Mm-hmm. Other than that, wide open. Do you disc it? Do you no-till it? Do you drag? Do you just frost seed? Like, I don't know.
One of the things I'll be interested to talk to Jeff about is I think he's one of those guys that really is promoting the idea of holding deer on small tracts of ground.
He is.
And not that I think his intentions are wrong in that at all. I think he's trying to appeal to an audience of small landowners or people that have permission on small tracts of ground. And definitely there should be content for those types of people. Absolutely. I'm curious to know if what he actually thinks is true in terms of the ability to
holding versus using.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
Yeah, because I used to subscribe to that in some capacity. I'm like, man, I can really do this work and hold deer on a 40-acre tract. And I've ceased to believe that. Definitely they'll use it. But
even Weston. Let's call Weston in.
Yeah, let's get Weston on.
Well, mainly because he has an example of that. I don't know what it is, 5 acres or something that like his grandma owns or that he hunts, and he planted a big food plot around. Okay. Did he fall asleep?
He's sleeping. Hey. Sorry, Weston.
He's muted.
We got a little. Yeah, we
got him.
We went too far down the rabbit hole.
So Weston, one of the things that we were talking about here is like, just we're kind of leading into where Jeff's going to be here next week, but Jared was kind of talking about the fact that one of the things that Jeff kind of backs, at least for a good point of it, is the side of ability to hold bucks on smaller tracts. And I know that you've got a property in Indiana that is 5 acres. Is that what it is?
No, it's like 10 or 20 now. It used to be 80, and then it got chopped down. Sold.
And it's one of those ones that I know you consistently see or encounter or have mature bucks on. But I think we all know that you're not necessarily holding them.
No, they're passing through, and it's kind of more cover oriented for sure. But it does have some smaller food plots on it and stuff that I'm able to do some stuff with.
You give me a little bit more lesson. Thank you.
Did you is that where you planted your food plot?
Yeah, so that's kind of been that small. It's a half-acre plot that I did the bean fence on, the standing beans, and then I've done a lot of different things. I've tried a lot of different things down there. It's just it's actually something that I just went down and filmed the other day, where it's just like any opening on any property, it feels like where deer hunting, you're going to naturally call a kill plot.
Sure.
But it's like, it doesn't really work as a good kill plot.
That's one of those buzzwords that gets kind of, abused a little bit.
It's a buzzword, but I thought that would be a key thing in holding deer. And I'm really just now figuring out what needs to be planted to hold those deer at what time frames that I need to be, having deer on that property and registering what's going on it. So
I think from a kill plot standpoint, like it's two things. Number one is, what do you have in the area? Like if we think about your Ohio farm, you've got big cropland, you have bigger food plots. If you go in and create a 1/4 acre, brassica plot, yes, that's a kill plot, right? In my opinion. What Weston's talking about, or even like behind my house, like I went in and did basically a 1 hour alfalfa plot last weekend or whatever. There are no other food plots. There are no crops around it. So like, even though size wise it's a 1/4 acre, and I'd be like, yeah, this is a kill plot, like it's also a destination food plot, because there is literally nothing else that those deer are going to besides native browse and acorns. So it is a buzzword in that standpoint, because I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I can kill deer on any food plot. But what's the purpose of it though?
Yeah. I've always got just confusion around, or just not the fullest understanding around like those terms from a destination. You know what? I think Jeff just did a video on like literally a couple days ago. Jeff did a video talking about this. I've got some decent sized food plots, some as big as 3-4 acres of beans. And I mean, I've hunted all of them in some capacity over the past 4 or 5 years that we've been planting those and stuff. And I've never once got the impression, whether from hunting or from running trail cameras on them, that they were spending significant amount of time in any of those plots. Where I do, like in the big ag fields, like I'll get pictures of that deer 2-3 times throughout the course of a night that would indicate to me that the deer is actually just spending most of the midnight hours in this bigger field. I really do think that it seems like the size and location of some of these destination food plots are as, if not more important than what's actually planted in them.
Yeah. I mean, you have to factor in that, like, that kill plot is in the center of some extremely dense, like early successional habitat everywhere. But then everywhere around that is just straight timber. And then you start getting into some like hay fields on either side.
Yeah.
And then up top, you've got some ag, and then down low, you've got ag, but a different thing there where they have cover crops. The other place doesn't do cover crops. This place does. So the deer naturally want to go that way. Like even during the hunting season, it just seems like they're always filtering this way. So that kill plot's a visit.
I think that's the big thing is you start to think about, it's all deer behavior, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when a deer gets out of its bed, beyond like a rutting standpoint, like there is a purpose for them to get up, to move, to go somewhere, to then come back to a bedding, barring it's undisturbed. In a lot of cases, if we think about spring, summer, and even winter time, take the fall out of it, it is to literally make a round through to a quote unquote destination area, right? And maybe it's different at different times of the day or different times of the year for sure, but they are going towards something to then feed and then make their way back, right? That's the patterns that happen. It's food to bed, food to bed, food to bed. Different than in the fall when you start to get natural mass dropping, whether it's acorns or whatever. These deer start to meander more, and they maybe never reach a destination area. In fact, they may never even visit that, especially if it's a big bean field that's been picked. Like, what the hell do they even have to go out there for, right? We see this in Kansas all the time. If it's a bean field that's picked and there's no winter wheat coming up, there's no deer coming out. There's no reason for them to. And so from a behavioral standpoint, we used to do this when we consolidated. It was like guys would look at an opening and they'd say, hey, like this would be a great spot for a food plot. The initial kind of backlash on that would be like, well, what's your deer pattern look like, right? Because if the deer aren't naturally moving towards that area, like by placing that there, I could change their pattern, but it's also forced. Like, why can't I put it somewhere where they're actually moving through or towards? And that's the difference.
The kill plot that I was just actually filming, and I was kind of talking about this because, before, like it used to be just an old CRP field, and I did a lot of like hinge cutting and things, just kind of experimenting. I was making specific beds and different things.
Yep.
But it's also like those cedars are getting just tall enough where a deer could lay down and see, like if you're walking the plot from even 100 yards away, it almost like it's just that it's not like a browse layer by any means, but you could see through it.
You know,
and I've got, that kill plot, and they're bedding right on top of it. And I can't get in there. It's really hard to get in there other than using a creek. But now
creeks and ditches,
everything's changing a little bit, because now for the first time ever, I'm able to plant a 2.5 or 3 acre plot that's going to be able to be somewhat of a destination or actual, feeding type food plot.
You mentioned those cedars. Something I've always been curious about, Weston, is, or maybe you know the answer to this. So, and for anybody that doesn't know, Weston did an internship with Grant Woods at Growing Deer. And I see a lot of, Grant does a lot of taking those cedars out of the equation. He wants to like cut them all down and burn it and do just purely early successional, I think is the objective. But I never fully understood that, because like it seems like, cedars are great, especially thermal cover. I know Jeremy and I found 2 of the biggest sheds we found in Kansas, like right in this a cedar patch, essentially.
Yeah, well, I mean, Illinois, we were walking right through some of that stuff, and it was like, and I get it from a standpoint of like, that's the majority of this property is just that dogwood, red bud, and then like some dense cedar. I'm talking like,
it's old pasture ground that has now been removed from cattle, and this is what's left, right? There's no 20-year-old oaks growing and stuff like that.
And the important thing is like, it's really good, like summer, shade, like they're going to bed in there. It's really cool. And it's got like moss underneath of it, but it's just diversity and habitat.
That's
like,
what it is, man.
I'll leave it alone. But yeah, Grant would, he'd have a cedar glade. He'd take everything off, and then they continually burn
the whole
it.
thing.
And
it's the fact that basically, and we get this in the South too, and in the pine plantations and stuff, that it's literally what we call like a biological desert underneath there. There is nothing.
I see.
There's nothing growing. Like from a diversity standpoint of a property, I think it's valuable to have that thermoregulation cover, whether it's summer or winter.
But if that's all you got, then
you're
you need
screwed.
Something else. Well, yeah, I guess that makes sense, because like where we're at is like, I don't have a whole lot of pine trees. Like there's a couple of ridges here and there, and basically wherever the turkeys are roosting is where your
that's
pine
it.
trees, right?
But the other thing that those cedars are doing is like, that's the safest cover they can actually move through.
Yep.
So where my destination food plot's going to eventually be, and then where the small kill plot is, it's all cedar around that. So that pressure that's on them just not wanting to go out in that open field, they end up cutting through. And, every time I'd hunt, they'd cut behind me because they'd be wanting to go through that thick cedar. I can't see them unless I'm ground level and I'm seeing their feet, basically. Sure. And so now I'm trying to essentially flip it on them and get that destination food source to draw them out and not have to be so deep into that cover. But
yeah, I mean, I think that I know looking back on some of my hunts, I had a spot on public land in Missouri that was literally like a little wildlife opening in a cedar patch that was right along the edge of an oak ridge. And like, though I think I killed 1 doe out of that, the amount of bucks that would pass through that opening during the rut, during daylight hours especially, was off the charts. Like some of the biggest deer that I had on camera were just, and it was an old strip mine, public land piece of ground. So there wasn't a lot of big timber. There wasn't a lot of thick stuff. It was just open, some ridges, and then these cedar patches and like what looks like high grass. But I mean, from a holding standpoint, yeah, some beds in there, but I think a lot of those deer are still just passing through. And it really comes down, if you start to look at those kind of areas, the hardest part that I've ever had, and I had a couple guys do it, I've tried personally, is, the trying to establish a food plot in those cedar areas, right? Because those cedars are a very aggressive species and leach into the soil toxins and stuff. That's why a lot of times you have biological deserts besides the actual
I didn't know that.
sunlight side of things, right? And so like these areas, like if you do soil tests and stuff, they're like all over the place. It's not, so it's hard to do anything. And the other side of it is, even when Grant and these guys, and I did it at Bill's place too, I went in and was like, hey Bill, I'm gonna cut these cedars down. He's like, yeah, knock yourself out. There's not, because
cedars.
Yeah, there's not a ton of because they're kind of isolated in themselves, the seed bank, right, which is literally when you cut down a tree in a hardwood forest or whatever, that sunlight hits the ground, that seed bank is what brings up all this new vegetation and stuff. Well, in these cedar areas, because they've been biological deserts usually for, decades, there's not a ton of stuff in the seed bank. Like you should get
anything. It's usually like a maple.
Yeah, and maybe you get some greenbrier or some sort of, blackberry or something, which is awesome. But like, it's not going to be, multiflora. It's not going to be nearly as much as you would in a hardwood area where you've got, a bunch of acorns sitting dormant, waiting for sunlight to hit. The moment you open that up, all this new hardwood regeneration starts, and it's thick and it's browse heavy.
We got a chunk on my farm that's probably 40-ish-year-old white pines.
Mm-hmm.
And at one time, because I've recently planted white pines, and I think they're doing a good job of being kind of a windbreak and some thermal cover and just some diversity is why I planted them. But these ones that were planted long ago are not doing anything that I can tell from a habitat standpoint. Like, they're just wasted acres. I can't get my dad to cut them because, Mom likes how they look, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But
aesthetically,
if I had it my way, I'd probably clear cut those. I'd clear cut them and I don't know. Ideally, run a fire through it, but I don't know.
I kind of
feasible.
When I was up there visiting with you guys, I tried my hardest to sell your mom on a fire.
I know you did.
And I pitched her the fact that like all these wildflowers are gonna pop back up. I thought she was like right there, but then I think the threat of fire in her house is holding her back.
It is sketchy, man. We've had some close calls with fire.
Yeah.
Isn't it a log cabin?
Yes.
No.
Well,
inside.
There's enough lacquer, it'll go up.
Whatever it is, it's flammable.
Yeah. But it is. That's the kind of stuff that you look at. So take a turn on this, and Wes, and I don't know how familiar you are with this place, but like I met with the landowner this week of the property I hunt up on the mountain, and I'm finally going to make my move on that central plot that you and I have been talking about, Jared.
I'm telling you, man.
And so essentially,
that's the one next to the clear cut, and then like the corner and where that buck was hanging out at with the blind.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm going to, and it's just thick, thatched, nasty grass. Like it's rough. So I'm going to go and probably in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to drop a nuclear bomb on it, and I'm going to chemically burn that thing to a T. I would really, although he hates fire, that's why this is coming up, I would really, in a perfect scenario, because it's so thick, is I would nuke the heck out of it chemically, and then I would ring myself a fire break, and I would burn that because I'm going to try to establish beans in there in May.
You won't go for it.
I don't know.
That's the way to do it, is if you torch it, then go put a fire break in. Oh, dude, that sucker will burn off in half hour.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that's my strategy. I don't know if I do a ring, and I can do it. It's not that big. It's open. It's not going to go anywhere.
What is it, like an acre and a half?
Yeah. But that would give me a clean slate to then come in and establish those beans. I've got a cultipacker out there now.
Oh, sick.
Critical. Yeah. So get that established. Plot start the hell out of it. And I think again,
picked up that new sprayer this year too.
Yep. So I have two
Same
sprayers
one I got.
now.
That reminds. I got to do some TLC on mine.
My sprayers should be coming. So I ordered that new one, that new Fimco from Forestry Suppliers. It's a giant, 60 gallon. It's got 14-inch tires on it.
It's literally the exact one we've got.
So I have that old pull behind, which is a piece of garbage. It's still a Fimco, but it's just the guy beat the hell out of it before I bought it from him. So I cut the wheels off of it, and I can slide it in the bed of my Ranger, and it hangs off just perfectly in the back. So I'm going to use that as my Roundup glyphosate chemical burner.
Does it have a boom on it?
Yep. And then I'm going to use my other one.
Why?
For deer grow and stuff.
Why?
I'm lazy, and I don't like to clean tanks.
It's so easy.
I don't like to do it.
Issue. I think my little backpack sprayer is finally going.
That sounds like more work.
No. Because that way I'll just always have a chemical tank, and then I'll always have a deer grow tank.
Oh, you're just gonna leave it in there permanently.
Yep.
You still have to clean the tank out.
Well, yeah, but I don't like to just mix back and forth. Because a lot of times, like if I spray deer grow, I'll have plots start left out, like because I'm not going to use it all.
You'd be all right. I got all the time.
What do you do with it then?
Rinse it out.
Well, no, I don't want to waste it. I want to use it on the next plot.
Oh, you have left over.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's why.
No,
yeah.
I measure.
You don't
measure twice, spray once.
Yeah, I'm just going straight concentrate.
It's fun, dude. We could probably have a whole conversation about the math and stuff involved with like figuring out a spray. I remember when it took me years to figure out like how much liquid to put in my sprayer and how fast to go. And like, I got all these calculations in my head about how fast I need to go and what my coverage area is going to be. You look like Zach
Galifianakis coming down the escalator and hangover. It's like,
at some point you just have to do kind of a test. And what I figured out was, regardless of what my sprayer rate is, basically at the speed at which I'm comfortable, which is about 5 miles an hour, maybe 4 or 5 miles an hour, my sprayer's putting out 17 gallons to the acre is where I'm at.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so that's it. I just need to figure out like, so
as long as you can cover an acre.
Yeah. So based on that calculation, I basically say, okay, if I have 1 acre, I need it's actually 17 and a half. 17 and a half gallons of liquid in my container. What is it? 3 ounces for
glyphosate
per acre.
Glyphosate? Yeah, 3.
Not gallon. Yeah.
No.
Yes.
That's the nuclear bomb I'm dropping.
It's been a year since I've done this, so I have to like remind myself every year too.
Nothing ever grew again.
3 quarts per acre and 17 and a half gallons of total liquid per acre, 5 miles per hour, and I'm good.
Do you remember? Did you do those calculations when you were in school, Weston, for wildlife?
Yeah, we had to do all that, and we went to a herbicide class, and that was like the tests.
Dude, I remember going through and doing this stuff, right? And then so like the first time I planted a food plot, it was like, all right, like I had same thing. I was like spreadsheets, calculations, watching my RPMs or mile per hour. Like I had it all down. Like 2 weeks later, I come back, nothing's dead. I'm like, screw this, nuclear bomb gone. And it's just like, and it is like those things are.
It's like you guys put water in your glyphosate.
Well, if you
that plot I just sprayed, I nuked the heck out of it because it's a backpack sprayer.
It's so critical whether you're chemically killing or if we're talking about like plot starter, plot boost, and deer grow. Any kind of spray opportunity like that. Like my big issue recently has been essentially the guy that has been doing some of the spraying and mowing on the property I hunt. I don't know what he's using, but it ain't killing things. Let's put it that way. So he'll spray. I'll have everything timed, and especially in the fall, like you have a window. It's gonna rain here. I need to get my plot in, and I'll go there, and it's not dead. Well, if I don't disc and plant, like I may miss the window for the next 3 weeks, and we're shit out of luck. So it's just so critical. I'm not saying that you do have to go out there and totally nuke this thing, but just make sure what you're applying is per the recommendations at least, and you're taking your time, because the last thing you want to do is waste all your time spraying, 2 weeks, have everything ready to plant, and come back and it's not dead, because then you're not getting anything to grow. It's going to be a grass mess.
And with a backpack sprayer and like just a little hand seeder, because that's usually what I'm working with, I always go overkill. I go overkill on my seeding rates. I go overkill on the mixture rates. I go overkill on plot start, just because I know I'm just
your dad goes
wildly spraying.
Your dad goes overkill on seeding rates, doesn't he? A little bit.
My clover's big. So
I'm thinking about these donuts in here. Eventually, I'm gonna grab.
I already ate one.
I know you did.
This year, I'm gonna have to, just because I know my backpack sprayer is slowly going downhill. It's just so old and the straps are breaking. But I'm gonna have to pick up an ATV sprayer for the first time this year.
Dude, my
game changer.
My problem with the backpack, because that's what I still do. Well, that alfalfa plot I planted behind the house, which for the record, like I really don't think that's gonna grow. I mean, it's like an old log landing, and alfalfa is probably the most finicky plant that you have. But what the hell?
Yes.
We'll give it a shot. Although Harlan told me it was growing yesterday. It's probably weeds, but that sounds right. When I've got two I just have this, maybe it's OCD a little bit. I keep them separate. I have a backpack sprayer for chemicals, and I have a backpack sprayer for deer grow. And I do clean them out, but I still keep it. And I walk in, and one has Roundup on it, and the other one doesn't. And I'm pretty sure, for whatever reason, just in this sequence of buying them, my plot start one is the one with Roundup. But then I always like walk in the shed, and I'm like, yeah.
Do you want to know something real funny? Kind of unrelated. I thought you were going to say something like, well, I wouldn't have put deer grow in a Roundup sprayer. Just like, I wouldn't have done this. Margie and I got in a fight last night about things we would or would not have done. Not really, but we were like, well, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have said that. And she's like, well, I definitely, if you had said that, I would have felt this way.
Wow, that's very forward thinking.
It's like a metaphorical fight about things that we would or would not have said based on our knowledge of each other.
That's what happens when she gets a day off.
It was kind of funny.
But yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, keep it separate if you keep it separate. Dude, I have done so much walking around food plots that I just have come to despise it. Like, I'm like, man, if I can, I've just like almost ruined 4-wheelers getting them to a point, and I'd prefer to do that than actually just to do it.
Well, my hard part is like the behind the house, isn't it? But a lot of my plots are like it's rough terrain to get to versus you've got farm ground and
most of mine can be accessed.
Yeah, it's like I'm navigating to get to those things. But
you got that Ranger now, which
I know, man,
the trick.
That's it. I'm gonna nuke that thing and I'm gonna spray with that. And
yeah, if you have the right tools for the job, planting food plots is not hard. But if you don't, it can be extremely difficult.
And we've done that. I mean, when we did buck advisors back in the day, I took that old cedar. It had a little bit of an opening, but it wasn't. And then I would actually cut, and then Jessica would drag the cedars out, or if they were giant, drag them out together. And then we ended up, and it turned out to be a little clover plot, but again, it was kind of like hard to hunt in that cedar stuff.
I've had really good success with my plot. I mean, Jared and I talk about this probably every fall. Like, in the last 2 years have just been brutal, man. The weather just has not played out right
for those fall plots. We've been getting droughted out in August.
Last year we got like a ton of rain, and killed off gardens. It killed off, like, it was just brutal. And then all of a sudden, major drought. And then I planted my fall plots, and there was no rain to germinate.
I had mine started because I planted early last year, like late July. Hit a couple good rains. Plots were coming up. Brassicas looked awesome. Oats were coming up, and then drought. And it just...
See, I got to it late because I went to, like Jeff talks about, the 200 pounds of rye per acre. So I went that route. And the only part of the plot that was germinated was the shade side. And it was just because there was a little bit more moisture, and there was like literally a line where the shade line was, and it was just
crazy.
I think the last year, and we talked about this, I think it was 2018. 2018, I remember my brassicas in the fall were 2.5 foot tall, lush. I mean, we hit all of it perfect. And then the last 2 years just torched. Yeah. And that's tough. Well, and again, so to counter that, and Wes and Jared and I were kind of talking about this before we brought you on, but, I know from, you need a donut. I'm like, nope. We talk about from a strategy of annuals, perennials, fall annuals, summer annuals. I know Jeff is very big on annuals and biomass. All right. And
did you eat one of these?
I ate one.
What was it?
That one.
Do you recommend it?
Well, you said you don't like, what's that?
Maple.
Maple.
That's maple.
I bet you'd be a blueberry guy.
Oh, I want to swear at you.
So you go the complete opposite. You're like, screw this, chocolate straight. Straight.
You look like a blueberry guy. I want to
Go straight chocolate then, son of a bitch. Yeah, sorry, Weston. But yeah, from an annual and perennial and fall and summer annuals, like Jeff is very much on biomass and annuals. For where I hunt, like there are no crops. Like I'm going to try to establish some beans, but man, I can picture it already, which is kind of exciting, but like there's just going to be a mower of deer to just come and just destroy all my beans.
Shoot them.
Basically a stem plot.
Yeah. So, and listen, at the end of the day, the landowner, so I guess anybody that's working with landowners in these situations, I said, I'm okay with that, right? At the end of the day, if we get to August and my bean plots are stems, right? They're mowed down. That they served their purpose. They provided high quality protein. I'd love for them to pot it out, but they didn't. So I'm just going to disc it under and I'll plant an awesome annual plot, right? And we did this every year.
I don't think you'll need to. I don't think you need to disc them under. I think, because
what are you doing?
You can glypho it again.
Like kill my beans.
No, they should be Roundup ready.
And
then just broadcast oats.
Yep.
Or rye.
Straight through them.
That's what I do. I just double crop.
So just leave them up.
Yeah, because they won't get completely demolished by the time the season comes around. They probably will be just short and like you'll get some pods low.
Okay. Yeah, don't plant beans.
I recommend. I've had some really good luck with those real world beans. They work really well, and you'll get pods. And if by the time the season rolls around, or it's time to plant, oats, or brass, you kind of make a decision as based on the weather. If you're like, well, yeah, looks good.
I think that's a good point to touch on, because with deer grow, we get calls all the time on guys like trying to select those indeterminate growing beans that have that longer growing season versus the kind of real world conventional bean with like more pod production. And they're like trying to question what that is, or where, for like Ohio or like Kentucky on your lease, like an eagle bead might be really good if you're trying to do some velvet.
Mainly because I've got green forage early in the season.
And you can hold those deer on somewhat of a summer pattern.
At the end of the day, though, if you have the choice, and this for anyone, and I've done it, is you need pods.
Well, I've done both.
You can have the double crop factor still.
Exactly.
And those eagle beans might not turn fast enough to be able to, because I always do it even on the
shaded out
lands. I don't have the land like to do food plots, so I'll always just make sure it's okay with the farmer right before those leaves fall. As they're turning yellow, I'll just go in there and cover crop, and then those leaves will fall. Get a first rain, they'll have excellent germination. But
that is the main difference that I saw was like, because Eagle seed was the very first bean seed that I planted, and I did that for 2 years, and both years they grew phenomenally.
Lots of green, big forage, and that's what they're known for is forage beans.
Really tall, and it did seem to stay green and attractive to the deer for longer.
Yeah, once they start to turn.
Yeah, almost into mid-October, these things were green. But then once that, there was almost nothing.
It's hardly any kind of pods. I had that 6 foot tall deer grow fence, bean field, and there was, they were 6 foot tall. You could barely see a doe in it, but the pods were there. It just wasn't plentiful. Like maximizing it.
Where I've really seen that big benefit, and there's whether it's real world or eagle, it doesn't matter. Like the pod benefit is huge in that if you can keep it green, in through September, and it puts on pods, you'll get them still hitting those pods periodically through October. That second week of November and later, they really start to pow onto those things. And then particularly in the late season. Then what I really like about them is if you have enough pods, February and March, when the hardest times, snow's falling and stuff, that structure is still standing with bean pods on it. And that's a hell of a source of food for those deer in that tough time.
That begs the question. This is what I wanted to talk to you guys about too.
True.
With this, so I've got this, new food plot. It's going to be like 2.5, 3 acres, and it has a chance to be a destination food source. So I'm just trying to think like through, like, and a lot of people are here. This is a pasture. Like right now, there's just broom sedge growing in there. So I know it's probably perhaps going to meet the plot start. Yeah. So I'm going with beans, I think, but I'm just trying to, like here, you can kind of see where the smaller plot is the kill plot. Yeah. And then you've got the big plot now. And I'm going to do, which if you can see that, there's a house right there.
Yep.
Is that your
That's her house. So I'm going to have to do a plot screen, but that gives me a chance to do blind. It's going to be a better, meat spot for killing doe.
I mean, I think the beans opportunity, well, here's the thing. And again, it is money, it is time. So I don't want to say like it doesn't cost anything, but if the deer just eat the beans all summer and there are none, you just put a fall annual in. You're not missing out on anything in that case.
You should be planning on doing a fall annual anyways, just from the double crop standpoint.
Potentially. I mean, but if there's enough pods on it, are you still fall annualing into them?
Yeah, I would, because I just like that. No. That rye is, even on that smaller plot, I did rye and it held deer.
I'm trying to make a buffet here.
I had 20 deer in there during shed season, so I would double crop.
I almost would think if it's a 2 or 3 acre, and I'm speaking from a bow hunter's perspective, if it's a 3 acre or 2 acre bean field, right, and it produces enough pods and enough structure, I would leave most of that in beans, and I would kill a part of it or disc under a part of it in a corner near a bow stand and put an annual in, so that there is a big bean field, but then there is a small, attractive annual plot that I'm truly focusing on my hunting side for. Because if it's monoculture around 2 to 3 acres, like besides purely a big trail, like it's tough to pattern a deer in that.
We got a better strategy than that. I just dump a corn pile.
Well, yeah, that's
I don't have that.
About 20 yards from my tree stand.
That's legal in some states. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wish I could do that.
You're like, so what are you planting this fall? Corn.
Yeah, a pile of corn.
That I like that thought process because I can't even hunt one side
corn's
of
good.
it.
It works.
So I'm probably gonna I might even end up doing that instead of just double cropping the whole field.
I think that's the way to do it. I mean, here's the biggest thing that I've seen, and I learned this when we were doing big like alfalfa and clover and chicory plots for a perennial side as well, is that when you have a large food plot, if you're a bow hunter, gun hunting's different, but if you're a bow hunter and you have a large food plot and it's all the same, there's no real mechanism to drive a deer closer to your stand minus you think you're on the trail. But that trail starts to deviate away from its production as well as the rest of the field is just as attractive as wherever they're coming out of from a bedding area or something. So if you start to position that, I've got a lot of guys that, on a 10-acre field will do, 3 different plantings. And Jeff is very against this. So this will be a really cool thing to talk about next week is, I like having variety. Like I like having different places, different peaks and stuff. It's just my style. Jeff is very much of, if you have those different peaks, you're moving groups around your property versus spreading them all because it's all consistent and peaking at the same time. Again, I think subjective, right? At the end of the day, like I don't know which is better. I do that mainly because I might have a brassica plot closer to thermal cover because I'm planning on that being later in the season versus maybe an oats plot closer to some of my major hardwood areas.
I think there's definitely something to that. Is probably the subjective piece, is to say that's a great example. It's like I'm going to plant a late season food source like a brassica near a piece of thermal cover where I know I can get between them during that time of the season. Mm-hmm. It might not make as much sense to have a clover plot there where they're just not going to use it at that time of the year.
It's not peaking at the same time.
And so that's kind of the bigger picture of food plotting, is like, how does this tie into a hunting strategy that I can actually kill deer on?
I think that's where I'm excited about Jeff next week to help us kind of hear his thinking. And again, I think he'll be very much like, hey, just based on my experience in cover. And a lot of what he's doing is in that upper Midwest section, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, where thermal cover in winter timeframe is so super critical. Versus if we're talking about hunting in Kentucky or something else. I mean, hell, when I lived in Mississippi, like people didn't plant soybeans, we planted cowpeas, right? Iron clay cowpeas, of which there was no potting, and it was literally looked like your thumb of a stem when September came, right? There was nothing left. And then they would come in and they would put some sort of cereal grain in September, October instead.
There was a seed that I really wanted to diss on this. Dis, not disc.
Dis? Like a dis?
Call from Florida. That can't be good.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? It was Pure Attraction.
Whitetail Institute, Pure Attraction?
I like Whitetail Institute a lot. As a company, I think they've got some great seeds. That Pure Attraction doesn't work. It doesn't work. First of all, it's a blend of 2 seeds that are supposed to be planted at different times.
Listen, at the end of the day, there are a lot of these companies doing that.
Yeah. Also, none of it grew. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I had 2 different plots that I planted the stuff in.
Yeah, it was. I remember that.
I think that, where'd you buy it at?
Online. Mm-hmm. From Whitetail
Online?
Institute.com.
Okay, well, that's a little bit safer. I think a lot of guys go in and I don't think you're guaranteed to have good germ rates on some of these bags.
Well, listen,
who knows how long they sit on these shelves?
I had like 100% just disturbance. Like it was just.
Well, and I think that's part of, like, if you start to look at some of these, and this is a whole different conversation, right? The buck on the bag thing, I still believe in. I use everybody's, right? We don't have a seed affiliation here. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, the alfalfa that I just got was from John Bersati and Frigid Ford, and we know John. Obviously, Bill talked about John.
Is that like the Alpha Rack Plus, or is that a Whitetail?
That's a Whitetail one, yeah, which is actually right over there. There's an Alpha Rack Plus over here.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought that from him. The thing I like about it is 100% pure seed, right? And I know Jeff has talked about this numerous times of look at the inert matter and the percentage of pure seed in there. Mm-hmm. That alfalfa was 100% pure seed. No knock to them because...
And he still can't get it to grow.
Right. Well, yeah, no shit. And that's not the seed fault. That's my fault. But if you look at, and I'll probably put this up on the mountain property too, but I've got Alpha Rack Plus over here, which I've had success with, right? Alfalfa and chicory really are the two big things in there. That Wina chicory has always been a kind of figurehead for Whitetail Institute. but it's like 60% inert matter.
Really?
In that bag.
Wow.
You know, and I'm not saying that the mix isn't good. It's just, and again, I'm well-versed enough in food plotting and how that's going to work that I'll make my own mixes. I mean, hell, half of my brassica mixes are frigid forage, big and beastie. I'll put that. I'll mix Whitetail Institute winter greens, and I'll mix biologic New Zealand brassicas. Mm-hmm. I'll literally mix all three of those together into that because I think they all bring something successful to the table.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm a weirdo.
No, I think that's fine.
I'm kind of weird because I do all co-op.
Yeah, we know.
Like, I just go to my local co-op because I know it's going to be fresh because the farmers are buying it out like almost every year.
And they just sell you carrots.
And I'm going in and doing.
Dude, that's real bizarre that you say that. I'm sorry to cut you off, Weston, but I had a dream that you just reminded me. I had a dream the other night.
About carrots?
About a carrot food plot. Like it was like the most bulbous carrots you've ever seen, and they were just getting destroyed.
Hunter carrot blend.
Weird. Yeah, I definitely had a dream about that.
Carrot food plots.
Sorry, Deer Grow carrot blend.
Didn't mean to cut you off.
Producing giant rabbits one at a time.
Right.
Probably like carrots. I'm sure.
Reindeer.
What?
You never gave Santa's reindeer carrots when you were little?
We did a thing with Ellison this year where we put out carrots for the Easter Bunny.
I'll have to talk to Dwayne and Vicky.
Yeah,
about
see, that
this.
makes sense because
what?
Carrots.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Reindeer eat.
You never left. So you left Santa cookies, right?
I kind of thought
reindeer
cookies were for the reindeer as well.
Your dad's like, Santa really would rather have a beer, son.
Yeah, I don't think a milk stout.
Your Santa likes Eagle Rare bourbon.
Yeah.
I think I was more like setting up pinch points for the reindeer than I was. Yeah. Corn pile.
Very possible. Yeah, it's just like a pile of corn.
A corn pile on my roof. You know that I went to the real North Pole? Where Santa lived, like actually where the workshop is. Did
you meet him?
No, it was off season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was gone.
Vacationing.
It was in North Pole, Alaska.
Wow.
They have like an actual.
Oh, did you get to see Northern Lights and stuff?
Oh no, I didn't.
What?
Because I was there in the summer.
Oh, when it's like never dark.
Yeah, it was never dark, so
that's freaky.
it was cool. But they had real elves there, employed.
They like to be called little people.
Well, they weren't. They were regular sized people, but
they were actors.
They were hired by Santa. I don't know. Dude, you know the funniest part of the whole deal? Though,
we probably need to have a talk after this podcast.
Yeah. There's a place down the road that serves reindeer sausage, and I had some. It was really good.
Yeah, they're like, "Hey, listen, these little squirrely bastards, get out of line."
I get to pop them. Yeah. These bastards get out of line. But
this is the cold reindeer.
Anyways,
yes. So you're using co-op seed?
Yeah, I just mixed my. I did some like red, some white, and because I do this because
is that inoculated? Is that pre-inoculated?
The white is, the red was.
Everybody know what inoculation is, by the way. Like you have to actually, bacteria goes on the seed to actually help it start germinating.
It's like
that
kombucha,
is
basically.
They're rhizomes to help with producing nitrogen.
That is the downfall of co-op seed, is that a lot of people will buy co-op seed that's not pre-inoculated. Thus, when they seed it,
I always make sure.
Chances of germination
it's got to be blue or red, or because I know, I know it's inoculated, but I mixed it, and I do that because obviously, like I'm having a kid in May. Now.
Is that how we got on this inoculation conversation? Wow,
you're saying you inoculated?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting. No, but I don't know if I'm gonna get out as much. So like a safe bet for that plot was clover, because I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to go put in fall plots. I just don't know what my time's gonna look like. So
that's the downfall of inoculations.
Sometimes you have to pre-inoculate.
But
that's good stuff.
Which brings up the point: how are we planting the Illinois plot? And if we're taking equipment to Illinois, can we make a pit stop in Indiana?
We don't know.
We don't know. So potentially, right? I've got my Kubota and disc and stuff, which I changed out the. I busted a bunch of those discs off on rocks and stuff. I changed those out this weekend. It's pretty easy. They only cost like $20 $20 per for a new disc.
Mm-hmm. They're pretty cheap.
Yeah, it's cool. Good thing it was the outer ones. I don't know how the hell it changed the inner ones.
Dude, those things are complex. I've had this Furminator forever, and all of them are just like.
I know. The outer ones are easy. It's like two different nuts that come off. Pull those.
The outer ones are the only ones I've ever broke, and I think it's because it is the rocks
when you turn
and the roots, but it's when I turn.
Yeah, you're supposed to take it out. I don't.
Too much pressure.
I like
They're small plots. Like I'm always turning.
That's usually where I get the best cut.
My gosh. Yeah, I'm like, look at it. Look at it. It's really grabbing now.
Yeah,
torquing that thing out.
Putting ruts in everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I guess per that, Weston, a couple different things. Number one, we're obviously as part of this Deer Grow conversation. We've got a new relationship with Whitetail Properties, and so the national meeting for the agents is in July in St. Louis, which we'll all go out to and be part of. Colton, we need to get that on your calendar. And then we'll be within an hour of the leases, so that's when I thought we would plan. It's the right timing. The alternative to that, just because I also maybe don't want to haul equipment across the country. And we may end up going to Deer Grow after that, is I've got some buddies in that area, Ryan Bland being one, that plant food plots as part of their business.
Right.
So I thought about asking them, like, hey, what would it cost? Number one, we've got to spray, and then you got to plant. Like, there's a lot of things.
That seems to be the real, like, logistical hurdle that we can't figure out how to get over.
It would be half-assed if we just went out and dissed it and planted it.
Yeah, it's like, how do you get the thing sprayed 2 to 3 weeks prior to then go in and still have to.
The landowner might also have equipment.
He might.
We could look at. So I was thinking about that because he did apply.
You're talking about the landowner who's spray painted a big on his garage, says "Sup, bitch."
Yes.
Yeah, Alan. Yeah.
Yes.
So I just he might have it, but I don't have equipment either.
Can we just put a backpack sprayer on the dogs and let them run around?
The whole property be torched. I get pictures of that dog. We haven't got a picture of a deer on that Illinois bean trail. It's just the dog every day.
Dogs.
That's a dog trail.
Even at night, like midnight, at 1 a.m.
I know that dog is.
There's 3 of them the other day. Nose to tail. Weston, that's your spot.
I'll be deep in the public on those pieces.
Inoculating. If we, so I think that's the strategy on that one. On Hobart's, I don't think we can plan anything, right? I mean,
no, I don't think you need to.
What I am gonna ask him though is in that back corner to maybe leave a little bit of standing corn.
Which corner?
The back corner.
It's not his. He don't own that.
The same farmer farms it though.
Yeah, but he doesn't own it.
Jeremy, we might also. I didn't see any cover crops in the big field with the redneck, like the giant. Did you guys see? It was corn. But I didn't see any cover crops in it. That could be a potential for bringing them out of that thick stuff into that big. I mean, he had enough acreage there.
I feel like I'm just gonna lay in that little drainage across the road and just like sit up and
on their way to the big feed field.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good strategy.
You see what I'm saying there? I know he doesn't own that. We'd be hunting his property. If I pay that farmer and just be like, yeah, dude, leave a strip here.
Oh, I guess, yeah, if you go to the farmer.
That's what I'm saying. Go to the farmer and just be like, hey, man, just leave a strip here. I'll pay you for it. I know it's somebody else cash running that to you, but who cares? You're getting your money.
I'm looking forward to. I hope we get a chance to hunt that spot this year.
I think we need to set. You know how it got wetter towards the. If you're starting from the house going that way, it got wetter on the right. I think we should cut some good shooting lanes over there and on some of those bigger trails, because otherwise you can't get into a tree.
I do think that there could be 2 people hunting that, one back in that corner. The other one, I think complete opposite. So to the east, we didn't go in. He said we could cut in from the main road there. I think that I bet there's another good corridor over there that we need to hunt.
Not to mention across the river and in all that public, you can come in probably from the highway or something.
That little refuge that we walked is getting hunted?
I'm sure somebody's hunting it.
I'd be curious. You just put a guy
right in that thicket, man.
Or right on the edge between that and that little.
That's me rattling.
Yeah.
It was loaded with deer sign.
It was, man.
Back to the first lease, though, dude. I do think having walked all of that surrounding area, If you put a big brassica plot in there, you're gonna pull
up in that top.
You're gonna pull some deer in.
Yeah, and so I think to do it right, I'm gonna probably reach out to those guys and I don't know, maybe we'll trade some services, give them some promo or something.
Did anyone put OnX on there? See what we're getting away with in terms of acreage?
Yeah, I mean that upper part is an acre and a half of what I had mapped out, and that's probably extending a little bit past that corner as part of the bigger field there. I don't know.
Down too.
I mean, I have thought about putting another one in that lower plot, even though it's fairly close, just because if I'm going to pay somebody to be out there, I bet I could get it done for dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
What lower plot?
The one after you walk from that top where we were heading back towards the house, there was one that was down in that bottom lower.
It's like that corner, right? The 4-wheeler trail.
Yes.
Where we're talking about putting a stand.
We were thinking about putting a camper there.
I mean, they're already out there. Just go and plan it.
Jared, I remember you saying that was the spot, that corner.
I'd put that in brassicas.
I do think it's the spot plot or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, regardless.
Yeah. That plot could just that area that's like just has a little bit more scent. You know, put a scrape in there, and
I mean those deer could be down in that bottom and up at that top in a heartbeat.
Oh, they will for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we should figure out how to get at least that top one planted if we want to get the bottom one done too.
I like the bottom one too because there you have that creek that's wide open that you can walk through. You know, it's 7-8 foot tall, so you're being able to sneak right in there from an entry standpoint.
I don't think you can, Weston. I think you're gonna have to come in from the house.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's just there's too much stuff.
I'd probably come right down the dog trail.
Yeah.
Seriously, right down the dog trail and then come from the south to the north.
I mean, it's literally right over the hill from the house. I think you could I would come from the house.
Pop right over.
I'd hop down.
If we have somebody planning, I'm gonna have them plan a couple of things because I bet it's the cost of getting the equipment there is going to be a lot less than time of doing stuff.
Theoretically, how much do you think it costs to just plant that whole thing? Like 6 acres of beans.
$1,000.
I'll chip in.
Get in beans tonight or this year. Yeah.
Just do the whole thing in beans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if top field where the tripod was.
Yeah, the whole thing.
It's probably a lot of work.
Field. I think. Remember me saying that?
Well, I get he probably would drill it. He'd spray it and drill it.
Well, he can't. He can't because it's in CRP. Remember?
I don't think. I think he's on drugs.
Well,
no, he's got it enrolled. I think he's what he said.
I think he has the tree plantings enrolled because if it's CRP, he couldn't have went in there and mowed that field, right?
No. Yeah, you can mow it, and it's like on a year or a certain time.
Why was he telling us we could plant it then?
He told us that he could dedicate a certain percentage to the wildlife food plots or food openings. That's what he said.
Like 100?
All of it.
Well, the other thing is I don't know if those guys plant in the summer because they're farming. I think they may only plant in that July-August time frame, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask because if we are dragging equipment all the way over, we'll have to pit stop in Indiana.
It does seem. It seems like one of those spots. But, I mean, there's definitely a few big bucks in the area, and it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of, during the season food. As if you could plan it, they'll come.
Well, I mean, the only other food that we saw was up front, right? Like along the road coming in was some crop stuff.
There's got to be a big buck down there, dude. That rub that we found is the biggest rub I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, the guys next to it from Chicago, that's just cattle grasslands.
Western
and I think that timber is so, it's
there's a lot of timber there. There's gonna be a lot of big bucks.
We searched that whole thing. There was no openings. There's like no diversity. It was straight, acorns, but
and most of the buck sign was heavier, closer to the lease.
Diversity. Yeah. I mean,
I foresee us picking up another one before the season.
I've been looking every night.
I know
8 p.m.
I know you are.
Nothing.
I see the emails coming through, and I'm like, he's looking.
Nothing good. Not yet. I'll jump on it when it
nice
happens.
To find another one like Hobart's, like down
right in that
area.
Mm-hmm. Don't know why that blonde's over there.
I'm just glad to add the others, like Illinois as a state, because even there was more public land, like even closer, where it's like, being in my spot's deadly for me. Like I'm an hour and I'm in Kentucky hunting. 30 minutes I'm in Indiana, obviously, and I could be in Illinois hunting in an hour and a half. So, which is awesome. You know, that lease stuff is 3 hours from me, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about the opportunities this year.
I'll be excited to see what you come across on public. I imagine you're going to do some closer to your house type of stuff, like hour and a half.
Yeah, there's some of that Shawnee that's actually like right on. I think it's like right at an hour and a half. It may be stretched to 2 hours, but there's some giant blocks and some blocks that you can't get in unless you're in a kayak.
Well, it sounds like, I mean, from a deer standpoint, Hobart's definitely seeing a lot of deer and a lot of bucks down there. I just don't think I think they're there. They're just not as visible on the one near Shawnee and closer to the Mississippi River and that more hill country type of stuff.
I think it's just not as dense of habitat, so I think they're spread out more.
I am anxious to get across that river though, where we think it's all flooded, because I feel like you're gonna find some islands in there that are just thick and gnarly, and it's gonna be
that could
really,
be really
cool.
It could be very cool if we figure out how to get a kayak in at the back of that lease and then take it down through beaver country.
But you guys in kayaks are getting this.
I think you're right, Weston.
I want to paddle a buck out.
I bet there's a big old swamp donkey back in there somewhere.
Oh, I guarantee that there is.
Just like seaweed hanging from his antlers, and
it's fresh.
Old man beard growing on his antlers. Just
like fun, like moss, like growing on
old mossy horns.
Just
You got to watch for those 50-pound beavers back there. They're gonna flip your kayak though.
I like that challenge of like kayaking in and doing that, because like, you know, last year was that whole 1.5 miles in, packing it out. Like I want to do that with a kayak.
Which is cool.
I bet
it is cool. It just gives you that edge, and it's a new element of adventure to the hunt.
Really cool. Well, it complicates the whole morning and getting out and like the time adjustments and everything. But you're dedicated at that point. You're driving several hours to a lease. Like, do what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, Jared's thought about sleeping in the tree before.
I 100% will do it at some point. All you got to do is strap yourself in, and you're,
duct tape yourself to the tree.
I should do that more often, to be honest.
Sleeping in the tree.
Yeah.
I there's more risk in that, because like, what if the wind switches or something? You know, usually you check it when you're doing coffee, and you can do a switch up. At that point,
you turn around and look the other way.
Dedicated.
Yeah, you turn around and look the other way. That's what happens.
I think that would be it.
Like, you're the type of guy that would sit in it when a front's passing through, and you're gonna hold up in there the whole time that rain is coming through, and then that morning's gonna be golden.
Like, that's the way to do it, man.
In the morning when the rain lights up, I'll be like a transformer breaking out of like ice blocks.
That's how I killed that deer. I sat through like a nasty front to the point the bow was held up and I was on the tree, because I mean it was hammering, and then as soon as it passed, all those deer got up and moved, and
that's the time
killed them. Yeah. I think it's a good piece. I mean, I think that Hobart's is going to be fine because that's going to be corn. So even when they harvest it, there'll be corn left over. Those deer are going to be in
that
the
field
area.
will be beans across. So the late season is going to be where it's at.
It'll be killer. The other one, we have to figure out a better strategy, because once those acorns dry up, it's dead.
Yeah. I think the more acreage we could get there with brassicas, probably cereal too, just in case they wipe it off. Like, if we don't get down there and they wipe the brassicas off the face of the planet, like
I do think that I don't know about both those properties. That hill country property, mid-October, first cold front on a scrape, you have a chance of killing a big buck.
Yeah.
Not Hobart. Yeah, that's the other one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe Hobart's too. Because that corn will come off early. That'll be off in September probably.
Can't wait to hunt it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how we fit it all in. I'm going to be so excited to hunt Kentucky, you know, obviously hunting the home state. And then like when that last week of October hits, it's just I hate having to pick. Like, it's a good problem to have.
Sure.
But
I think the problem is work and families and anything else that's not hunting during that time.
That's the problem.
On a food plot note though, what's our Ohio landowner trying to do here?
I don't know, man. It's kind of weird. Like, I feel obligated to like contribute or help out to his cause.
To.
I do, but he's also just gonna do it anyways.
Yeah, I just don't know what, like, and I'm fine. I mean, like, there's clover growing and some stuff. Like, it just needs sprayed. You don't need to replant.
He's gonna plant. He's gonna plant.
I think a strong kick of deer grow would be needed.
Well, we can do that easily.
Yeah.
He's gonna plant regardless. He's already told me. He's like, about the seed, about the clover. He's like, when you guys coming up? I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's that like many of those plots should be brassicas and cereal grains.
So here's what I do know. There's 5 or 6 plots that he's been planting for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And those are, I think, some kind of combination of brassicas and clover. Like, I don't know. I don't know when he's planting those, but there definitely was some brassicas in those last year.
Mm-hmm.
I did propose to him planting a big bean field in that thing. And he mentioned that she's got it crop loose for hay.
Hay, yeah.
For hay. So he's like, but yeah, you can talk to her about it. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, even if I end up putting that in brassicas or something in brassicas.
Yeah. And none of those are going to be destination plots. I don't, you know, but
I'm going to benefit off of hunting off of brassicas with you guys this year. I've never had success with them, so I'm interested just to hunt over them. And
the hard part about brassica, and I love them, don't get me wrong, is my success has been in a very narrow window with them.
Really? Oh, well, as soon as that frost hits, you have a week
mode. Yep. And like even the one behind my house, which is poor example because it's a small plot, and I mean they grew okay.
I think that's mainly because you're Pennsylvania, though.
Yeah, the boys just like we didn't see anything the entire month of October and first week of November in the plot.
Yeah, man, it starts. It's like that second to third week in November,
which our season's closing.
It starts to really pick up, and then it stays good through January usually.
Yep. I think that's a misconception. Like the whole small plot with brassicas, they get nuked so fast. Like
well,
it's great if you can get in there.
Yeah. And I always miss a window. And usually it's when we're in Kansas, which is no fault to our own. But like that last week of the PA season, usually we go to Kansas. That usually is the week that there are just 15 deer in the plot behind my house just mowing it. 2 weeks later, gun season opens up and there's nothing left, right?
Do you have cereal grains in there at all? Do you have winter rye, winter wheat?
I put a little bit of oats in there, I think.
That would be the time, though, like in Kansas, dude. If we could get Robert's Bottom planted in brassicas that did well, that third week in November would just be insane.
Yeah, killer.
When you guys say brassicas, what exactly are you planting? The
bag that says brassicas.
Yeah. Last year I put in purple top turnips, sugar beets, and rape.
Rape. So not like the what's that daikon?
Daikon radish.
Yeah. So that's like they have those at the co-op, and I remember combining beets and
I need it.
Purple top.
My bulbs never get big.
They don't.
I feel like my bulbs stay immature.
Hey, laughing about Ian. So small. Seems to be a problem.
Dude, you know what? Mine really take off in the month of September.
Your bulbs?
The bulbs really.
Well, maybe because we haven't had any rain.
Yeah, you need some rain. You need fertilizer.
It's super compacted, which maybe that new Deer Grow product will help. Yeah.
Well, usually if you know what, the best luck that I ever had with brassicas was one of the first years that I planted them, and I actually rototilled the whole plot.
So it had more, it was lighter, fluffier, more. See, that's the benefit of those daikon radishes is those radishes put on a huge tuber, go straight down and aerate the soil, break the compaction up, and then they break down.
Remember that?
I probably should do that.
Remember that first year that I planted brassicas out there on that West Wind, and it was just like, it's probably the best one I ever had.
I did it. So I actually did it on that plot that I cut the cedars out of, and they didn't even penetrate the soil. They grew on top because I just never gotten tilled. You know.
That's what mine tend to do. My bulbs are sitting high.
I've got a good strategy here for anybody that hunts farm ground.
Yeah.
Let your farmer farm a piece for a couple of years and then say, I'm going to make that a food plot now. Because it's been treated at that point.
Yeah.
And then move it. Just be like, hey, you can plant that again. I'm going to move over.
I'm going to move over here. Yeah, that's a good strategy.
I've got one spot that's like that, and it's like I just carved it out of an ag field, and like it's always grown.
I'm kind of torn on the plot behind the house this year because if the alfalfa actually grows and looks good, like I don't really want to till it under and plant brassicas, but I also don't want the deer to just like mow it and then there's nothing left. But then again, if I plan that right for the boys, we should kill our deer in archery season. And then I don't really care about the late season.
I'm with your whole like stripping it out on this new food plot. I'm probably going to end up trying brassicas. I can never bring myself. I'll have to do some cereal grains in there too, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, mix it with oats, wheat, or rye grain, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where my flaws have been in the past. Is if it's purely, and I did it last year. I think if it was purely a brassica plot, there were no deer using it until second week in November.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in a muddy blind, and the deer are just skirting, eating acorns and stuff. You know,
Right.
so I'm gonna change that up this year, whether it's just alfalfa or cereal grain or something.
What's your guys' thoughts and experiences on the screens? Because I have not yet done one.
I'll tell you what.
I've done like habitat screens with like hinge cutting and stuff, but I have not actually planted screens.
This is kind of interesting. I've had some good luck with them.
You use them at the farm?
Yeah, in a couple spots. What's cool is, and this is tied to like, location on. Did I just get louder? Location on these plots and just learning, the piece of ground that you hunt. What happens a lot on my farm in Ohio is like, there's a couple main drainage that, are running throughout the farm. And then there's, secondary ravines that run perpendicular. And what happens a lot of time is I'm getting some serious bedding happening on south facing slopes year round. And
on the drainage ditches?
On the hillside above them.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the hillside. South and east facing ridges typically are. And I think that's primarily because obviously the sunlight that is getting, but also the prevailing wind is typically out of the west. And so it makes sense that from a location standpoint, those are primary bedding areas just for deer, period. But what happens is these deer get up and then they filter down into the bottom in the evening where all the thermals are dropping so that they can stage down there and they can smell everything that's happening around. And the closest option that I have to do a food plot is on the next mound. So it's like, here's the ridge, drops down, they stage, next mound is my food plot. And sometimes they can even see to it because it's just like a ravine between it and they can see across it. That's why they're bedding there.
And if you're up there and drops down into the thermals.
I've got two spots. It's the East Twin and Ray's plot. It's the exact same scenario. And what I have to do is find a way to, screen my access to that plot so that they can't see me from the ridge that they're bedding on. So one of them I don't need because I can access it from a way that I don't need it. But Ray's plot specifically is like, they'll see you.
Yeah,
like if you just walk out in there, they're gonna see you. But I've done a pretty good job of like getting this food plot that kind of wraps out and around. The big ridge is over here that they're bedding on, and I've got a tree stand right on just a giant tree that it kind of sticks out in that field like a sore thumb. And I've planted plot screen now for several years, right up my access and around the tree. It's just a little J hook, and it works.
So it even covers when you're like going up a ladder or climbing.
Well, I'm on the back side of this giant tree. In fact, some ingenuity here happening. I can't get a strap around the tree. It's too big.
Yeah, it's giant.
It's huge. And actually, I can't get a cameraman stand in there for that reason. What I did, instead of trying to get a strap all the way around, is I took two eye bolts into the tree. Yeah, I just did it into the tree. And then I just latched onto those.
That's smart.
Nice.
Pretty nice.
Didn't go to college for nothing.
I would have probably just gone screwing steps
Well, I have a big ladder stand in there.
Yeah, those eye hooks
I got
work.
a big old ladder stand in
there.
Have you guys killed deer out of that stand?
Yeah, that's where Dale killed sweepers a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah.
Colton and I shot a couple does out of there last year.
Nice.
Very nice.
What are you planning on that screen? What are you using?
Plot screen. It's Frigid Forge plot screen.
Frigid Forge plot screen. Do you know what's in that?
Probably Egyptian
wheat.
So on this one, again, because it's like my grandma's house right there. Okay, I have literally asked her for 10 years now to plant this food plot. This year is finally the
Please,
year.
Grammy.
Hey, what did it was I promised her
is this your
whole row
is this
of
your
sunflowers.
mama's mom?
Oh yeah, there you go. Sunflowers.
Sunflower. I'm gonna do a whole row of sunflower. I might put that plot screen in behind that just to ensure that there is somewhat of a screen to give them, I guess, more security.
Sunflowers will be good, man. That's good structure on that side. I mean, people just plant 6 rows of corn as a screen.
Yeah, I've had good luck with the plot screen. It's done pretty well for me.
Your hardest part, depending on how many deer are in that area, with sunflowers is they'll mow the shit out of them.
Right. Early.
Yep.
I've never tried before, so.
But I mean, anything structurally will help there. Field corn's good.
Well, but to give you some confidence in your strategy on this bean plot this year is I planted rays and beans, thinking I would need to go back in, and it worked out pretty good. It was maybe
real world or just like conventional.
No, real world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did really well.
Yeah, I don't know.
That screen I think is going to be vital for this plot because the house is right there. They're always out there. That's my entry from the truck. But it's the same scenario, Jared, where they're bedding in the cedars and all around, but that plot has just the slightest slope where my thermals are always going to sink from where the deer are coming from. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to like bury myself into one side, keep thermals on one side, just probably seal up tight in a blind.
You know how to beat those thermals?
I'm going to come from the underside with the creek.
You could always come from the underside, but muddy box blind is the way to beat that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Either like I kind of like the hawk down and outs and different things like that because I'm not super confident financially in buying a blind.
I was going to say super confident in my ability to pay for that.
I want to be able to move it around, and those down and out blinds seem like a really good medium.
You could just pull a Bill Winkie and just throw it on a trailer and tow it around.
Yeah. Then I have to buy a trailer too.
Remember when he built that thing? It looked like like a medieval like war tower that you would like pull up to the wall and like climb over. Was that before he was
with Redneck? Must have been.
Yeah,
because he tried making his own.
It was like a 2-story house that like the cameraman was like in the top and he was in the bottom.
Those were the days where Peruka was something out of the barn wagon.
Yeah, the wagon.
Mm-hmm. It's funny.
No, we turned grain. It was a grain. Yeah, we turned one into a blind as well.
It is funny how deer just get used to those structures you put out there. Mm-hmm. This fuzzy wuzzy buck that I killed, I put that muddy box blind out there on a 5-foot tower 2 months before, and he was there all the time in daylight.
Didn't care.
He didn't care.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, it's still a movement thing in those blinds and stuff. Like I know and again, I've got 2 kids in the blind with me, and so it looks like we're doing cartwheels, but like I'll have deer coming through the woods to that food plot when we're in there, windows closed, and they're drilling holes through the side looking for any movement inside that blind.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I've
had the same thing.
Mostly does. The bucks don't care. They're just like, whatever. But those does are locking eyes.
See,
and I'm just
my deer cannot figure it out.
Really?
Yeah, they'll look, but they can't seem to see past that barrier, even with the window open.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just be in there like moving around. Even if they think they see something, they're like,
damn mountain deer.
I think and you're talking about the blind on that really small plot behind the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because I've tried to put blind on that small kill plot. I think it's the size of the plot because it's just that they get so much more on edge within that much.
So she said.
Dude, I have like a mature doe like literally looking right at me, and I'll go
right in the dome. Yeah, I can't. And again, kids. There's multiple bodies moving, but like I'm having them set up and like looking over my shoulder, and we're locking eyes.
It's bizarre, man. Hunting out of a blind is bizarre, especially because the noise. And I think you hear it if you watch, especially Midwest whitetail. You can hear these guys moving around, and it makes loud thuds.
It sounds loud.
It sounds loud, but outside,
nothing.
You don't hear anything.
Those muddies are nice with that because they have so much kind of insulation and everything between the walls, OSB, that, I mean, it no knock to redneck.
Like a straight fiberglass.
Well, yeah, no knock to redneck, but it's fiberglass. I mean, you hit the side and it does make noise. Those things can make noise, but there's so much dampening happening in between that you do not hear that on the other side.
Like when the kid drops the iPad or something.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd commit to a box blind on that Union County property yet. It would be a good spot for
hang on right in the corner.
Yeah, I think so too.
Pocket. Yeah,
I think I'm seriously going to look at one of those hawk blinds, and then actually in the middle of this big food plot too is one of those just absolutely giant cedars that I'll go up there with a chainsaw and carve out. It's just a perfect little area for a hang on.
I may try to put one up. Well, we'll see. I'd like to get something down on Nebraska plot in Kentucky to be able to get the kids in and out of pretty quickly in that bottom. So we'll see.
There's one up there.
I know, it's still there, isn't it?
Get it?
They'll probably charge me double.
Speaking of trimming lanes, I was trying to swindle Margie into buying me hunting gear by convincing her that it's like house gear. We went to, here's a good example. I bought a new what's it called? Skizzers or what's the
Skizzers?
Yeah, what's that scissor brand that's real popular?
I don't know. Apparently we're not.
Fiskars.
Yeah.
Picked up some Fiskars, the real heavy duty pruning, because there's a pine tree next to our house that's getting us all branches and stuff.
Perfect.
Got to come down. So Daddy's got a new pole saw now.
Well, Fisker action. That's a good one.
Those are real nice. Did I buy you one of those?
No, we bought a cheap one when we were out in Kansas to pole saw.
That's a good pole saw, man. Can make all the difference.
I'm still dreading going to that Kentucky lease and
you'll be fine.
Why?
I just tunnel myself in there.
Which Kentucky lease? The one that Jeremy and I flipped the Ranger on?
No. The one south of his house. Dude.
Densities like that.
Listen, at the end of the day, though, there will be a giant in that.
There will be. I don't know. I mean, it was a hard enough time going without a backpack in there. I don't know if carrying a bow, camera equipment stuff, it's going to be difficult.
All right, we'll do it for you.
I invite you guys to come over for sure with some chainsaws and we'll knock it out.
Invite me. It's my lease. If you guys, I'll invite you to come over and visit it sometime. I think it, and again, food plots, there's a great case in point. Like food plots aren't for all of these places. Like you're not planting a food plot on that lease. It'll be minerals, popcorn. If you find an oak tree.
But
yeah,
I mean, that's the other thing too. Like I'd love to haul a feeder up there, but
bet you would.
I cannot imagine dragging a boss buck through the stem density like that. Like it's just deer trails.
Dude, we're gonna have our work cut out for us on this, getting them big boss bucks.
Those 600 pounders. I gotta get those ordered.
That'll be so cool though to have those.
Once they're back there, it's right. I almost went. I bought 2 trophy rocks for those spots. I almost hauled those back up in there, and I didn't.
I'm telling you guys, that water hole in that Kentucky, you have a boss buck, the mineral, you got that water hole. That is going to be the spot.
I was thinking about that back. There's probably 2 areas that we really want to have one on that north side, but where that little ephemeral pond was, where those 3 ridges kind of came together right in the corner.
Would you call it an ephemeral pond?
Ephemeral pond, like it's seasonality, seasonal pond.
Never heard that before.
Yeah. Seasonal pond. It's not there all the time, but
okay.
There was which one I'm talking about. Like it was on the ridge, on the back part of that north part of the property.
Yeah, the north is where we went the second day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, then yeah.
Yeah, thought about putting one right at that where those 3 ridges come together.
Yeah, those are the 2 spots, right? Those 2 points, 2 knobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then over towards that buck bedded one. And then we still technically need one probably on the south, up on that top.
Yeah, right in the saddle.
Yeah. Those 3 spots.
We got to figure it out.
Just got to get them there without dying.
Yeah.
Risky.
Well, maybe we'll learn something next week that we can take and apply.
Yeah. No, I think so. Having Jeff on next week, 3 of us will be on. We'll be pry and ask some questions, kind of follow up on this conversation, get some input from Jeff. I mean, listen, like I was telling Jared, Jeff probably sees more properties than anybody I know and steps foot on different properties. And, anytime you have case studies like that, it's going to make you at least a little bit more knowledgeable.
Yeah. Clients always texting you saying what's working, what's not. And you're seeing those bucks killed in October, November, I'm sure, from those guys. And hear about his new Minnesota property. This is his first year with that farm. And at least from the outside looking in, he killed it.
Yeah.
Had a ton of big bucks, killed some good bucks. So it'll be an interesting take there because, it's like, dude, you did that in 1 year. Like, what's next?
What's this year?
I'll be interested to see just what our conversation is like with Jeff because I know and he knows a lot more than I do for sure. Probably all of us combined on how this stuff works, but he also takes it, pretty serious. And we like to have fun with. I know he wants to have fun with. I'll be interested to see what we kind of settle on in terms of this is what we should do or this is what we shouldn't do. And
right.
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
Hey, also we got a new sponsor that I don't know if we've announced anywhere.
I don't think we have.
Hoyt's gonna get us some bows, and Jeremy's been not this Jeremy Eldridge is the marketing guy at Hoyt has been super.
Yep. We're going to get him on the podcast here, probably. I don't know. We're trying. So strategy, just so everybody's listening, goal, at least in the off season, is that we're going to try to bring in a really cool guest every other week. Right. So you have to tolerate us for a week and then you get Jeff then you have to tolerate us, then you get somebody else.
Wait, I'm a very special guest.
Yeah. And thanks for watching.
Special in your own right.
And so we kind of bring this strategy. So obviously Jeff coming up next week. Jeremy Eldridge is going to be on. We've got a bunch of guests lined up. I think it'll be really cool to tie people in. But yeah, excited to work with those guys. I mean, that's something that we've backed for a long time. Our relationship with Hoyt is really through a bone collector relationship as well. You know, we've worked with Michael and Jackson, Nick and T-Bone and those guys for a long time.
So we're actually going to shoot the Bone Collector edition.
Correct. Yep. Mm-hmm. So that's what we'll be toting there. RX5s.
Mm-hmm. You know what I love so much about these RX5s is that they're so dang similar to that bow I'm shooting now.
Yeah, the old Carbon Spider.
Yeah, I'm shooting that Carbon Spider, blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
This is literally just like a new version of. I think they figured out that Carbon riser just works out so well.
It was good, man.
There's so many things that.
So I killed White Whale with the Carbon Spider.
It's a sick shooting bow, man.
Mm-hmm. So
I can't wait. I've never shot a Hoyt before.
Oh, sorry, so. You're not getting one.
What are you shooting now?
I'm shooting a
Prime, right?
And before that, I had a Bowtech Admiral FLX like 2010 model. I'm like type of guy that holds on to like bows for 5-6 years for some reason.
By choice?
Not financially. But also, yeah, just, I mean, once I have it set in, like this Prime with, the arrow setups and stuff that we did this year. Like,
well, dude, I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I
mean, all of these are good bows. Like, at the end of the day, like they're not making bad. Nobody's making bad bows.
I feel like
I don't think I've ever had a flagship. I've never had a flagship like brand new bow ever.
So that's my honest opinion.
Yeah.
Having not shot any of the other bows on the market. So I think that Hoyt RX5 is the best bow, period.
Well, when we shot, so we have an RX4.
At least on the market right now.
We have an RX4.
Yeah.
And so obviously no ATA this past year. So ATA of on 2020, right? You and I shot the RX4s at ATA. I loved it. Quiet, smooth, everything that I want in a hunting. But I don't shoot 3D target. I don't care about that. I'm looking from a tree stand perspective, axle to axle, smooth drawing, and quiet. And that bow is money across the board. The thing that I will, because I'm converting from a Matthews side, right? I've been shooting a Triax for the last 3 years, and I've liked that bow. I've killed a lot of deer with that bow. It is smooth. The things I dislike about that bow, and again, not saying it's a bad bow because it's done amazing for me. It's extremely heavy compared to the carbon, and I found that out in North Dakota hiking with my bow when Jared's got a 3-pound carbon bow.
Well, you actually found that out the first day we got them, and I was like, this thing's a brick.
Yeah, and then number 2 is that the size of the cams on that bow make me nervous. When I'm sitting at 80 yards and I have that thing at full tilt and I'm watching cam lean going, like that just freaks me out a little bit.
What's the axle to axle? Is it significantly the Hoyt?
30 on that one. Yep.
And it's true.
My Prime is the same way because we went elk hunting. We did 17 miles one day or almost every day. And that thing is heavy. From a tree stand bow.
Yeah.
It's not ideal at all.
I think those were 32.
Yeah, they were.
Whatever Prime you're shooting. Well, dude,
and that 30 to 32 range is a sweet spot for a tree stand bow. I shot a 34 Prime for a while, and that was big.
Well, for a while,
I think I might have that. I think I might have the bigger one.
The 34.
For a while, they had the Hoyt Carbon Spiders, which have been always 30 inches axle to axle. They came out with the Triax, the Matthews Triax. Is that what it was?
Yeah, that's what I'm shooting. The Triax.
It was either Triax or the one before that's 28 inches axle to axle.
It was is it Halo?
No. Oh, yeah, probably.
Halon.
That was 2 years.
Halon.
Right?
Halon was 20.
Was it?
28. Triax was 30, 32.
But in real life, that Halon or whatever bow it was actually taller because of how big the cams are.
Giants.
Right.
Huge.
Bowtech went that same direction, and it's speed related, right? And I get it. Like, speed is important, but man, the size of those cams just, especially, I'm gotten, 2 miles through a wooded trail and stuff. I'm beating that thing off of trees or brush or something like that.
Well, and even that strapped into the backpack when you're going mule deer.
And I had mine come off the cam in Columbus. We were rut hunting. I literally was putting it down and it was windy, and it just kind of blew it right up against the tree and boonk. I was like, what was that? And it came off the cam. And it's like, holy hell, like what happened, you know? And so all in all, I mean, we've killed a lot of deer with Hoyts, and so I'm happy to get back to them. You know, happy to be supporting the bone collector guys in that venture too. Eldridge is an awesome guy. I can't wait to get him on the podcast. And you know, the one thing that I think from his standpoint that'll be cool as a change up here as we get through some of these whitetail guys is Eldridge is a Western hunter. That's what he lives to do. And so to get him talking about that Western side that the three of us are really just starting to get into, I think will be a really cool thing. The other one I'll mention too, just from a guest side as well as a sponsorship side, we mentioned a little bit, and I've got a call with those guys here soon now, is Buck Fever. Right, so we're going to be working with the Buck Fever guys on that side. That's something that we put in last year. Ian and I filmed some stuff up on the mountain with Buck Fever. Really cool to see how some of that forehead gland stuff and pre-rut and rut formulas worked for us. The really cool thing is these guys have some amazing, what I would call, I wouldn't say the unknowns because they're known guys, but successful bow hunters. We've got a Troy Pottinger who's from Idaho who hunts backcountry public land whitetails. The dude's killing giants. And he attributes a lot of that success during the pre-rut and rut to use of Buck Fever. In the eastern part of the country, we've got a guy named Bob Folkrod, who Bob is a kind of a legend, has been affiliated with Bass Pro and Cabela's for a long time. And Bob in PA and New York has killed a ton of big bucks with his bow, again, attributing a lot of that success to the technology around Buck Fever, which the cool thing around Buck Fever is it's synthetic, right? And so with CWD and everything that's happening from a deer piss standpoint, it's not going away.
It's French for pee.
Sorry. It's not going away. It's going to continue to be an issue. States are going to continue to outlaw actual natural urine, and synthetics are going to take the place. So to get these guys in and hear their background as well as the guys from Buck Fever to be like, listen, talk about the technology here, because they kind of broke it down to me, and hearing it from a biologist standpoint, I'm like, yeah, that makes a ton of sense, right?
I need to know your thoughts on this thought that I've had here.
Your thoughts on this thought? Yep.
The spot in Kansas.
All
right.
Which one?
The knob.
Mm-hmm.
Above the ants there.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like that's the spot.
It is.
Do you think I can just beat that with Buck Fever? Because the problem with that spot is the wind.
Yeah, I think you can.
Do you think I should? Like,
mm-hmm.
Should I just go and hang a stand on that knob and hunt it regardless of anything?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, should I also put some Buck Fever out, or should I not?
I would be very close to the camera, back facing that drop off, looking out towards the pasture. Yeah. Because I think that by the time they drop in behind you, you will have either decided to shoot them or not.
Like right where that old stand's at.
Mm-hmm.
But up in there a little more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about it because, like, at least for me, especially with all these cell cameras we got now, we have a huge arsenal now. This mock scrape and those scents, the forehead plus, the ground scent, like that is the most important aspect. The mock scrape trail camera setup during October.
Well, dude, and last thing, and I don't want to be, we're not sponsorship. I don't say the W word in front of Ian, and it hurt his ears. Whores. But seriously, and kudos. I'm already screwing this up with the fan interactions. I can't remember who said it, but somebody asked like what camera setup we were using, right? And it was the Fusion and HME solar panel that we had set up. So Stealth made a package with the Fusion and the HME solar panel, 20% off.
Wow.
That's available right now on the Stealth Cam site.
Dang.
Because, dude, it makes sense, right? I'm so excited to look at our cameras and see full battery and full solar panel charge on all these cameras across the country that we're not going to get to, and they're just taking pictures and just cranking.
That changed your life,
for
man.
Months. I just set up for the first time because I asked Jared. I was like, "Hey, how easy is this HME solar panel setup?" Because I remember watching you do it in Illinois, but I never like paid attention. Plug it in, wrap the wire up. I remember you wrapping the wire up.
You're done.
Velcro it out. I set it up right there, and what was it? Already had the first bachelor group. That was yesterday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right,
24 hours, and I know I'm not going to have to touch that spot.
But seriously, and listen, and I don't say this to like, hey, go buy them, but they won't last long because this is last year's Fusion that we paired it with for the solar panel. The new Fusion X, which you and I talked about, like I'm real excited about because there's a lot of big improvements coming on that.
Yeah, mainly the image quality.
And a new app.
Well, because you can see even on that picture that Weston sent, like it's not great. Like it's kind of whatever for right now, but they see that and they're going to make some improvements with this camera.
Yeah, they have.
And honestly, every other aspect of this camera, legitimately, I think is pretty solid. So if they can get that image quality up, yeah, you're in good shape.
And when you're switching to like when you're switching to the lithiums and you're trying to get longer battery life, just having that other aspect.
It's still going to die though. I mean, at some point, like I buy a ton of AA lithiums. At the end of the day, it will still die sometime before you're ready for it to actually die on you.
And they're dead. Yeah.
And so this it just makes sense. I think it's like, I don't know what the camera's running for. It was like $199 or $149 or something like that. That solar panel was like $50. Mm-hmm. No brainer. And it's a 12 volt in there as well, holding that charge. So those together are huge. So the 100 people that are listening to this podcast, go get one.
It's you.
Oh, I thought you were pointing at Colton.
I was pointing at the 100 viewers. Also, Colton, you should get some. We'll hook you up.
Yeah, we'll hook you up. Cool. Anything else?
No, that's the food plot kind of stage for us to have Jeff on next week and a couple new sponsors, which we're excited to. Yeah, man. We have been I've been shooting Hoyt for a long time.
I've been using them.
We've been running these stealth cams for a long time, so excited to get to help them promote their products and use more of them.
I'll leave you with this
question mark.
I'm gonna try to shoot a turkey in the face this weekend.
The shotgun.
With a bow.
No, not with a bow. With a gun. With a firearm. Second Amendment.
Oh.
Yeah, no, with unless the kids decide that they want to go, of which then I'm just calling and they're shooting.
I'm still disappointed. I think the turkey camp would have been awesome, but I know it's maybe next year.
Got plenty of time.
Kentucky turkey camp.
I got a cabin and property and turkeys.
Two tags.
2 tags.
2 chains.
I just want to go fish too. But
I still think we could line up all 3 and we could all tag out in about, because you can't do that, right? Kentucky, you can shoot back to back, or do you have to wait a day?
No, I don't know. I think you're overconfident though. I don't know if there's that many. There's a bunch of birds, but they're going to
send a picture of what was it, 6 longbeards?
Yeah, in a row. I bet they're starting to break up though here real soon. Yeah.
Especially with bows, as they all come down, they all start attacking the other one, and
you would get ready to draw back, and then I'd shoot it in the face with a shotgun. What are you thinking?
I don't know. I do want to go turkey hunting, but I'd rather go fishing, I think.
Yeah. Well, see, I do the turkey hunt till like 8, 9 o'clock, then I go fish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If there's no birds gobbling, I'm like, all right, let's get out of here.
Yeah, I'd love to do both, but
you can.
I can't.
You can.
I want to.
It's a free country. You can.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
All right. Well, listen, appreciate everyone listening to this episode of the Hunter Podcast. If you haven't, go back, check out Bill's episode. Really cool. Hear the background of Midwest Whitetail and really kind of where Bill's going with his new venture. And tune in next week when we've got Jeff Sturgis on to talk a little food plot and habitat management, and ultimately, how do we kill bigger bucks?
Yeah, man. It's going to be fun.
Thanks for coming, Weston.
Absolutely. Fun, guys.
Right. Peace out.
Later.
Take me